it's really personal to me. I've only spoken about it to like 3 people, including my ministry team. So if I'm already emotional, and I will get more emotional. So if I start stuttering, I'm just going to end up reading. So during my 7th and 8th grade, I was bullied in school. I was called vulgar names. I was body shamed. I was ridiculed, and I'm sorry. Um, I was so by the time I reached ninth, I was really I rarely prayed. I started giving up on God. I said God wasn't there for me. I started blaming Him for everything that I went through alone. I felt like God left me and wasn't there for me. I started blaming my parents for not letting me be like the other kids, for making me for not for saying no to stuff my friends' parents were saying yes. And um, by the um, by the end of my 9th grade, oh, by the way, I just finished my 10th, so I'm not that old. So by the time my ninth was getting over, I was really angry with my parents. There was almost not one day where there was peace in our house. There was fights all the time. Anything my mom said, I said, no, I'm doing it. And I would go out of my way just to make her cry. And, um, and but even though I had these fits of anger, I had no idea why I was so angry at my mom and my dad also at times. And I it just happened, and then after that I'd lock myself in my room, and I'd cry, and I'd feel so ashamed and so guilty of what I did to my parents. And it wasn't only my parents. In front of my friends, I embarrassed them. In front of their friends, I embarrassed them. When I say I went out to get them, I went all out. I didn't leave them any bit of dignity at sometimes. And I would feel so guilty and so ashamed of what I did once I went back to my room, but I had no idea what would control me when I got angry at them. I gave up entirely on God. I stopped praying. When we had family prayer, which was very regular in our house, my dad would say, "Can you pray for this? Can you pray for that?" I would get angry at them for even asking me to pray, and I'd say, "No, you pray. I'm not praying." I just put my head down, or sometimes I'd even walk away from the prayer, and my mom would end up crying. Um, so in school, the names that I were called, every time I started feeling guilty about what I did to my parents, so I started saying, yes, I am useless. They were right at the end. I was disgusting. I just let all those names get to me. And so during my ministry, I was so embarrassed, so ashamed, so rejected of my own self that I couldn't tell anyone. I think I've only told 2 people in my entire life, and Dia and Dashmi were the third people I ever opened up to about this whole story. And Dia, she took a bit of time to even get to me, and by the end of it, she brought me to the place of forgiveness where I had to forgive those friends, so-called friends that used to bully me, my parents, myself, and I also had to I had to ask God to forgive me for blaming Him. But I still, until today, I didn't trust God to be there for me always. I was always saying, no, I have to be there for myself. God isn't there. And unless I'm like really desperate for Him, like He only answers my parents' prayers. And um, Pastor Annie prayed for me. Okay, Annie auntie. Annie auntie had to explain the whole concept of why Christianity is a relationship and not a religion, and that even though I don't deserve it, God still gave His love for me, and He is there all the time. And just like a relationship works, I got to go back to God and listen to Him. And those labels that I was called during my middle school I let those get to me, but I had to, even though I still believed it in faith, I said, I am not that. I am beautiful. I am a child of God. I am a child of the King. And I believe I'm fearfully and wonderfully made, that I'm a child of a King, and that I'm beautiful to Him. Yesterday in the room after my prayer, like usually even in here also, if my mom and dad told me sleep early, like I like sleeping at 1:32 in the night, and they'd say no, we're sleeping at 11 o'clock, and even that was like, no, why are you controlling my life? And I think I even shouted at them on the first day for doing that, but yesterday when my dad said, I said okay, I will, and and I actually said, and for me that's a big thing, because you can ask my parents, I have shouted them, I've called them names because of the pain that I felt. And I'd like to give Jesus thanks for putting me back to normal. I'd also like to thank God for bringing me here at like when I'm only 15. Otherwise, I'd have to harbor on these emotions when I grew up, and then I'd be blowing up at everyone. And it would take a miracle to save me. So thank you, Jesus.